Tuesday, I think. Yeah, Tuesday, June 3rd. It's hard to keep track in the summer. Let's see. What can you tell me about vintage L980 ADS speakers? Thank you from Georgia. I'm the wrong guy to ask. You know, the right guy to ask, though, is Kevin from Skylabs. He knows all about the ADS. Is that like their flagship speaker? I think it was. He didn't love them. Well, he didn't love them as much as he loved other ADS speakers, I think. Maybe. I don't know. You have to check him out, find out. Anonymous says, no, I'm going to ask you about coffee. Ooh, speaking of coffee, I don't have a sticker on this one. Cam Coffee, everybody, is available for purchase now. It's linked in the description. Where are my stickers? Oh, here, there. It's roasted once a month, and then we have different flavors once a month. I don't know what next month's flavor is going to be. It's going to come out in about 2 or 3 weeks. This month's flavor is Colombian. I wanted to put Colombian Records, but I didn't want to get in trouble. So it's Colombian. It's yummy. Single origin. I think there's 50 bags left. So get your coffee while you can. It's awesome. Eduardo Magana. For 2 to 3K, what speakers, photo preamp, and integrated amp would you get? Total budget. Okay. Total budget. Well. You could do it a couple of different ways. One, you could get the Unico Primo, which has an installed phono preamp, which is awesome. That comes in at $2,000. Now, there's no DAC inside. And then you could get, I don't know, $1,000 pair of speakers. Depends on if you want bookshelves or floor standing speakers. Either way, you could get something from Emotiva, like the, what is it? XB1s. Those would be 500-ish, and then you'd have money left over for a WiiM Ultra. So all in, that would be $3,000 or less, and it would be an incredible system. Or you could look at the XT ones. What are some other ones? Oh, the Q Acoustics 5020s are excellent. They're a little bit pricey though. I think they're about $800. Yeah. But Unico Primo, then you could also look at the Advanced Paris A10 Classic, although I think that's gotten a pretty big price bump lately. I think that comes in around $2,600, but it has everything. So it has DAC, phone and preamp, everything. Then you just have to budget for speakers. For $2,000, I don't know. I'd probably go separates for $2,000. I would probably get something, one of the Emotiva amps, and then a WiiM Ultra, and then that's $600. Then you have $1,400 left over for speakers. I don't know, something like that. Yeah. Ooh, a lot of comments. You can only afford one. WiiM Vibe Link or 3E Audio A5. Which one sounds better? I didn't put them up against each other. Actually, I think the A5 is still in pieces on my shelf. I don't know. I'd probably go with the Vibe Link, and it doesn't really have as much to do with sound as convenience. I'm getting so sick of external power bricks. So just having something simple, you plug it in and you're done. I like that. Any experience with Zoo Audio? I heard them in Chicago. I've never had them here though. All right. If you were looking to buy a traditional receiver, what would you recommend under $300? Home theater? There's not a lot out there. Yeah, there's Not a lot out there. I think maybe Sony makes the 5-channel for less than $300. If you have $300 though, I would look to buy something used. If you can find a Marantz that's used from like an NR1711 or even an NR1710, 1510, 1511, something like that. If you can find that for $300, that's what I would get. Yeah, something new under $300. I don't think you're probably going to be happy with. Coffee is awesome. It is awesome. Are you talking about my coffee or just coffee in general? Either way, the answer to both is yes, it is awesome. All right. Are you going to ship them internationally eventually? Probably not, because it's roasted here, and I have no idea what international shipping would look like. And then the cost of it, and then it being kind of like you put it in your body. I have no idea what those requirements look like. So unfortunately, probably not. I don't know, unless I can hook up with somebody in Italy. I got some Italy connections. I love my Zoo DW2 speakers. I've heard a lot of great things. Zoo has a very loyal following. All right. Did I get any super chats? No, I did not. All right. Would the WiiM amp drive the CSS Tori or the TDX1? If not, what cheap amp in that price range would you recommend? Well, if you're just looking for an amp, the Vibe Link's pretty solid. Then you could look at the Emotiva Bass X A2L Plus. That's $350, but usually there's a sale going on. That's around $300. The TDX, I don't think are I think are fairly efficient. And I can't remember if the Tories are super efficient or not. Either way, I think the Emotiva, that one that I mentioned, A2ML Plus, the Vibe Link A5, I mean, even the DOAC A5, I think it's $85. Then you could look at something like the ZD3 too. Out of those, yeah. I just bought the edifier for my Audio Technica LP. Nice, 1700 BT. I think I own that one. No bass though. You budget for a subwoofer. LP60. LP60. I don't know what that means. Oh, okay. There you are. I don't know what LP60 means, my friend. Is there a difference between expensive and cheap speakers? Yes. This is a cheap speaker. I got in a lot of trouble on this last video I did. Net loss of 15 subscribers. I don't know if anybody. This is a cheap speaker that looks nice, but it's cheap. This is some no name brand from AliExpress. These are $200 shipped. It's a 3-way with a 6.5-inch woofer. Yeah. And then a tweeter on top. So they look nice. They actually sound okay. They're not very dynamic though. At all. So yes, I mean, there's differences in everything from the enclosure build, the drivers themselves, and then the crossover components, and then the engineering that went behind it to design the crossover. So there are good cheap speakers, and there are bad expensive speakers. So you can't make a decision based on price alone. Unfortunately, it's more complicated than that. So yeah, there absolutely is a difference. Every component that goes into a speaker will either add or take away from the cost. So yes. What would you choose between Klipsch, the 9s, or Kef 9s 1,000 times over? Although I've never heard the LS50 wireless, but I'm not a Kef fan. The 9s are a lot of fun, ton of fun. They're huge too. Should I buy the K11 R2R or SMSL SU1? I have a Pioneer A400 amp, and is that Tannoy Mercury floor standing speakers? You're going super budget. I don't know the A400. You're going super budget on the DAC if you got some Tannoys. I've never heard the K11 R2R. I need to buy one. Everybody is raving about that. I've never heard it. SU1's pretty solid for $80. I don't know what the K11, what the price is on that. I don't think you can go wrong either way though. I love the SU1 and I've heard nothing but good things about the K11. What's the go-to budget subwoofer these days? Well, that's an easy one. That would be the RSL. I don't remember the model number. It's the cheapest sub they sell. It's a 10-inch subwoofer. Yeah, crazy. I think it's $350, and they make outstanding stuff. So it's going to be $350 well spent. Outside of that, you'd probably have to go to, what is it? Jeepers Creepers, SVS. But they're way more expensive. Then you could look at, I think Emotiva still makes subwoofers. You could look at maybe something they make. No idea when the Fonzie CD transport's coming. I'm super excited about it though. I love it. Will the Fonzie ZD3 DAC act as a reclocker for WiiM Ultra? It's the same chipset as the cheaper DAC that you have been recommending. I don't think it'll act as a reclocker. Maybe through USB. I'm not the guy. Like that's a DD something. DDC. So I don't know. But what you can do though is buy one of those $60 things that I did a video on. I think it's the SMSL P300, something like that. And then you go USB out of the Ultra through that thing, and then you would go, I don't know, optical or whatever into the ZD3 DAC, and then that would act as a reclocker. So yes. Yeah. Good evening. Duke ST01 Pro, WiiM Pro, Wharfdale 9.1 with 150 subwoofer. What changes would you perhaps make? I don't know the 9.1s. ST01 Pro. Is that the thing that looks like the IEMA with the two tubes sticking out of the top? Two tubes. If it is, I mean, it's solid. I don't know the 9.1s. Are they like the diamond 9.1s? So would that be, we're at 12, so 11. So that'd be like 3 generations ago. I don't know. I don't know those. But it sounds like a fun system. I would probably throw a external DAC in there, SU1. Super cheap. So you go WiiM Pro, you would go optical out of the WiiM Pro or coax into the SU1, and then SU1 into the Duke ST01. Yes, that's what I would do. That's what I would do. My goodness, we have a lot of comments. All right, I'm just gonna have to scroll, click. There are a lot of expensive. Okay. Do you have any opinions on the Marantz MM7025? I keep reading that it's a home theater amp and as such isn't good for music. Something keeps pulling me back towards it for music. I haven't heard it. Marantz makes good stuff. At least the last Marantz product that I had was very good, the 1711, NR1711. So I would imagine that it's fairly good, unless it's Class D. I would stay away from anything Class D from Marantz right now. I'll put it to you this way. Marantz released I don't know if you call it flagship, but it was one of their more expensive integrated amps, and it was Class D. The next revision, which didn't come a lot later, so I think it was like the next year, they went back to Class AB. So I don't think Marantz has figured out Class D yet. Anyway, I have a Pioneer Elite VSX LX805 running Klipsch RP 600 for left and right, RP 404 center, and 2 sets of RP 52S, 4 sides and rear, with a monolith 11 channel amp. I want to add 2 SVS SB 3000 subs. Overkill? Depends on how big your room is. I don't think anything's overkill, man. You can go for it. Hypno pooper. Yeah, I like that. I don't like a huge subwoofer, but if it's a big room, you like the bass, and you have 2 subs that you can dial in. They have a great app, so you can run that. The VSX LX805, I think it has DAC, which you can run multiple subs on, I think. So yeah, go for it. I just don't like huge subs. RSL10E, $299 shipped. Yeah, unbeatable. That is unbeatable. Brian Ruby, form factor. Given what we've been seeing with products like the WiiM Ultra and the Blue Sound Node icon, is the days of the traditional stereo rack doomed? Why would future generations buy big? I don't know. I don't think it's doomed. Listen, we don't. This industry that we are in is not a big industry. So the majority of people out there are my age and older. There's younger, of course, but they're still going to make bigger, 16-inch wide products. And I'll tell you the reason why is because tooling. So this stuff is already made, right? And if you're having stuff manufactured overseas and you're a newer company, those, like, that form factor is already done. So to redesign the form factor of a product is going to cost money. So they can either take that money and put it into, I don't know, better transformer or whatever it is, maybe some new functionality, or they can try to jam all that stuff into a smaller form factor, and they're not going to do it. So I would say absolutely not. It's not doomed, purely from a dollars and cents standpoint. But I kind of like the smaller stuff every now and again. Bam. I bought IQ Acoustics SB12 sub a week ago, and I don't have sub out on the WiiM Pro. So annoying. Waiting for the WiiM Ultra to arrive. I'm sorry about that. Thanks, bro. You're welcome. Hey, look at that. Owen Roberts. 199 pounds. In your opinion, what's the best hi-fi product in the last 10 years? Oof. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's probably like the WiiM Ultra, because it checks so many boxes. It's funny, and we'll go into a little bit of a conspiracy. Like, I'm not throwing shade at anybody, so I'm just gonna say what I said to a buddy of mine. So if you look at the WiiM Ultra, it's $330, and it actually goes on sale for less than that. So for $330, you're getting a fully functional streamer. You're getting a DAC, phono preamp in there, I think. Yeah. EQ, bass management. It's like, that's crazy. How can anybody compete with that, right? I'm wondering if, like, it's just their grand master plan to, like, get all our IP addresses and have backdoors into the internets. I always wondered that. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, how can they do this so cheap? And I'm like, oh, maybe it's a giant conspiracy that they're trying to spy on it. WiiM's trying to spy on us. Do you ever go shopping for vintage gear? No, not generally. Sometimes I used to kind of pop in. Oh, by the way, Owen, thank you so much for the super chat. Sometimes I had like a routine where I'd pop into the local, what do you call it, Goodwill, and see what they had, but they never had good stuff. So not really. I don't ever go shopping. Well, I used to go on eBay and look up stuff, but I went through way too many vintage receivers and I didn't listen to very many of them. Hey, from Finland. Hello to you, the Guinness. Elac debut 3.0 DB63 still good to buy. Yeah, for sure. They're warm, but they pack a punch. Wirehead, look at that. Channel member, $5 Canadian. Sorry I'm late, but I'm glad I made it. Good to see you guys. Thank you. Thank you so much for the super chat, my friend. You were so kind and generous to the channel. Thanks for answering my question. You're welcome, Brian. If you guys want to support the channel and not just throw money my way, you can actually get something. You can get Colombian canned coffee. It's the first month's coffee flavor. Link in the description. When should I be thinking of power amps or monoblocks for a system? Is it just speaker specs or other things? Well, the cool thing about monoblocks is you have separate power supplies and you have separate channels going into each box. So it's not always the case, but the theory or the prevailing thought process is that you're going to have better channel separation. Obviously, you're going to have one channel going to one box, one going into the other. But again, this is a complicated, nuanced question because not all monoblocks sound the same. Not all power amps sound the same. So if you're happy with what you have, I wouldn't be thinking about, running out there and grabbing an external amp or not. But if you have the room for monoblocks, I dig them because you're kind of getting the insurance that you're not going to have crosstalk. Does it make a huge amount of difference? I don't know. Sometimes, I guess, maybe. I think the sound of the amplifier, though, and what's going into the amplifier makes more of a difference than anything else. But I do like me some monoblocks. Oh, give a like. Thank you, Gwenko. Guchev, thank you very much. My Piano Craft Yamaha mini system has lovely speakers. They are rarely found on eBay and used forums. That's always a good sign. If there's a bunch of something on the used market, that should tell you something. One of the examples of that was the CAF LS50. When I bought them, there was so many to choose from. And then if you look something else up, there's not a ton of options. So it's a good litmus test is how many of these things are on the used market. If there's a lot, that means, well, either there's people bootlegging them or people didn't like them. I've got a friend ordering mine for her address in Michigan because they don't ship to Canada. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry, Wirehead. The coffee. So good. I'm gonna have to open another bag. What gauge speaker wire do you recommend? As big as you can go. I think I got some 10 gauge once and it was too unruly. So I think I stick with 12 gauge. Let's see. I put a little, I think this is 12 gauge. It could be 10 gauge. I don't know. I just bought this off of Amazon. It's not copper clad aluminum, so it's legit copper, I guess. So yeah. But this was the kind of the biggest gauge that I could get into these banana clips, which are Amazon Basics. I think it could be 10. I think it's 12. So I like that. I like the 12 gauge, not the 20 gauge, the 12 gauge. Anybody growing up on a farm would understand that reference. Okay. What are your thoughts on the vintage Technics Class A amps? Is that just a gimmick? No, man. Class A is cool. It all sounds different. Not very efficient, so it's going to throw a lot of heat. But people love Class A. I don't particularly, but other people love Class A. So I don't think it's a gimmick at all. And if it's vintage Techniques, unless you're, depending upon what price you buy it at, you'll probably be able to sell it for whatever you paid for it. So, I mean, you could basically just listen to an amp for free if you buy it right. Look at this N Rustica, $5. Can I daisy chain USB-C power to my PL100 CD player from any SMSL amp gear? Okay. USB-C power, so that's 5 volt to PL100. What is a PL100? Let me look at that. Is that the DDC? SMSL PL100. Oh no, you're not going to. And I'll tell you the reason why, because that takes 2 amps plus. So most of the stuff, the USB outputs on any device generally are like a half an amp. And that CD player won't even blink at you, won't even power up with a half an amp, won't power up with 1 amp. So you legitimately need 2.2 amps on that CD player for it to even turn on. No, I think I got it to turn on with a 2 amp, but I couldn't get it to play until I got a bigger power supply. So unless the USB-C output from some of your gear is 2 amps, which I would highly doubt it would be, it's not gonna run it. That's really the only criticism I had of that product was that number one, it didn't include a power supply, and number two, the power supply it requires is one that most people don't have. So yeah, some of them do, like the Ultra does a output, and there's a bunch of, although it's not really SMSL, it doesn't apply to SMSL, but there's a bunch of integrated amps that will have a USB output or USB power thing going out of it. So they'll do a half an amp. The Ultra does power the PS100, but it doesn't require two amps. Can't wait for you to get the new Fozzy gear to play with. Obviously, if they send it to you. Yeah, I think they're sending me some stuff. Oh, by the way, they reduced the price of those speakers $100 to, I think, $400. So I kind of made a point out of saying they're good, but they should be less expensive. And so they dropped the price. David Margolis, $1.99. Thank you so much. What do I think of the Wharfdale Linton and the Lox G A40? I think you need a different amp, man. Those Lintons are really nice. Really nice. Put a better amp on it. I don't remember the A40, but I do remember this, that I haven't heard a Lox G component come out since the Texas Instruments 3255 amp chip revolution. So I think the Lox G was using not a Marantz chip. They were using something else. Actually, Marantz is the same company that made all the amp chips that Lox G and SMSL used to use. Lox G is related to SMSL, if they're not under the same ownership. What was that? I want to say Cirrus Logic, but it's not Cirrus Logic. Anyway, it's a company that's out of Europe that makes those. How do you feel about SACD? The Sony Blu-ray players are kind of cheap, and you have some DACs laying around. Seems like a nice match. Here's the problem with that. It's difficult to play an SACD digitally out from a Blu-ray player. It's over my head as far as being complicated, but I know it's not nearly as straightforward as playing a CD out of like a digital output. And I think it has something to do with the multi-channel or like the DSD aspect of it. I don't know. So it's not super easy, because that's what I thought it would be. I thought, oh, I gotta I do have a 4K Blu-ray player, which plays SACD. This will be a snap. I'll be able to listen to SACDs, but technically you can, but unless you have an HDMI input on something, it's complicated. See, it's not as easy as just plugging a digital output out of the Blu-ray player and then playing a SACD. Keith Crouch is ready to tackle it. Been inspired by your channel here in the UK. Well, thank you. Just purchased some used Brennan BSP 50 speakers from the company that made CD jukebox rippers. The CD rippers were up to 700 pounds. Have you used them, Steve? I have not. I've not used those CD rippers. It's a cool concept, though. I have a bunch of music on. I used to have a NAS. Well, I still have the NAS. It's just not hooked up. It was too complicated for me. I'll tell you the reason why I didn't love it. Because you could copy the contents of a folder and then create another folder on your NAS and then drop those in. But if you just had a huge folder called music, and within that folder was 100 different artists, and within those folders were 5 different records, and then within those folders were the actual tracks, you couldn't just copy the music overall folder and drop it in. So it was kind of a deal breaker for me because it was just so silly to do it. Looking for a 3-way center channel with a warmer, more laid back sound, matching them with a pair of Lintons 85. Any suggestions? I wish you could buy a single Linton. That would be my suggestion. Let's see. You could look at, I think the Elac Debut 3 series would probably match up fairly well with those. I'm trying to think what were some decent. I would just get a small speaker and run it vertical. What was a kind of warm-ish sounding speaker? Wharfdale, I don't even know if they have any center speakers anymore. They used to have a tier down. That was okay. What would be a warm sounding speaker that you could use for a center channel? I would look at the Debut 3. Or if you could find the Debut 1st gen, I would see if I know they had a center channel back then. That would be my suggestion. So Elac, or if you can find a cheap pair of Wharfdale, what would it be? The Denton 80th edition, I think would match up well. Yeah. JTH, $5. Thank you so much. Opinions on Cerwin Vega. I need to get Cerwin Vega in because I get these every live stream I do. I get questions. I'm having a set of vintage D9s refurbished. Excuse me. Just got their mini Bluetooth speaker, and it's amazing for the size. That is super cool. I need to get some in. I get asked this every live stream I do, so I need to get them in. The people hath spoken. I need to connect my TV and computer, wired and Bluetooth, to my speakers. No taller than 13 inches. What do you recommend? Your TV and your computer, wired and Bluetooth, to my speakers. No taller than 13 inches. There's a bunch of powered speakers that would fit that bill. If you're on a super tight budget, Numi has the BS5 powered. They're stupid cheap. I think just north of $200. It has HDMI. I think it has USB-C, has Bluetooth, so that would fit the bill. And then you can just kind of go up from there. Just about anybody that's making powered speakers now has an HDMI in there, which would take care of your TV, and then your computer. Most of them have USB-C. And then they, most of them also have Bluetooth. Most of them are also small. So that would fit the bill. All right. Linton's our price singly on Crutchfield. There you go. Buy a Linton. Steven 778. Finally got to talk to you, man. Thanks for being here. I bought a stereo tube preamp a week ago. Been looking into tubes. Wife hasn't seen me in a week. I didn't really need another rabbit hole to get lost in. No, none of us do. None of us do. I have been going down a rabbit hole too. So I'll tell you a story. It's this channel's fault. So I was doing a video and I was looking for a picture. So my first car was a 1979 Dodge Aspen RT. So I was looking for a picture of one that was the color of car. I did a joke. It was kind of a joke or an analogy about how music was mastered different ways depending upon the way that people listen to the music. So a lot of music, popular music, was mastered for crappy car stereos and then, smaller radios. So what most people had at the time, right? And so the joke was, that some of this is mastered for a 1979 Dodge Aspen RT. So while I was doing the research trying to find a picture of that, I came across a 1979 Dodge Aspen RT. Now, they didn't make many of these cars for good reason, because they weren't good cars. The Aspen was actually, I think, one of the most recalled cars in all of history. But anyway, the RT was like the performance version, sporty version. I found one for sale, and it wasn't ratted out like most of them are that I've found. Anyway, I bought it. And it's been a giant pain in the rear because it looks real nice, but I bought it from Atlanta, had it shipped to me. I had a guy inspect it, but mechanically, it's sat for years. So I've been going down the rabbit hole of like fixing old cars with carburetors and stuff like that. So it has been a ton of fun, but it's been frustrating. And had it not been for this car, like, means something to me, and there's none of them available to buy, I would be mad about it. But it's a rabbit hole that I've been going down, and I'm super obsessive about anything that I do. So, yeah, I've been going down that rabbit hole. So I get it. No question. Just thank you for fun videos. Thank you, Macon. $9.99. Thank you so much. You're very kind and generous. Thoughts on topping A53 and D53 stack? I don't remember those. A50. That's awesome. Obviously, an amp. D50 is a DAC. Let me see. Topping D50. 1, 2, 3. Oh, yeah. That was one of the first products I ever did. It was, I think, the original D50. They're pretty good. I like them. I don't know about the amp though. Let me see that. A53. Oh, the headphone amp. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure those are really good. I don't really do headphone amps anymore though, so I couldn't tell you for sure on that one. But I like the D50. That was one of the first DACs that had LDAC Bluetooth. And so I went down a bit of a rabbit hole with LDAC Bluetooth back then. That was like 5 years ago. 4 years ago. 4 years plus. New channel incoming. Cheap carburetor, man. There's nothing cheap about carburetors. Unless you find one in the junkyard and you can figure it out. But this one has a decent carburetor on it, like an aftermarket. But when a car sits for a long time, like, bad things happen. And I took the transmission pan off, and because I knew the gasket was in disrepair, and I think I don't think the gasket had ever been changed. So I think the gasket was 46 years old. Anyway, I had to scrape it off. It looked like somebody took ashes from a fire and then compressed them and then put some, I don't know, Elmer's glue and then formed a gasket. And then, so it was literally like, looked like charred black ashes coming off. I put a new gasket on there, and guess what? It still leaks. I think the pan's dented or bent. So yet another thing on the list that needs to get checked out. My dad's only car with a killer audio system was a Ford Cortina that we only kept for about 6 months while Dad turned it and modded it for a buyer. That's cool. Tuned it and modded it for a buyer. That's very cool. Very cool. Super Dougie M. Good to be with you on your live channel. I often miss these and I'm not notified. Glad I'm here. I just threw this one up. I didn't even plan it. I have to go get my daughter. Ooh, we're gonna have to knock this off here in the next 10 minutes. My daughter's at band camp, so I have to go pick her up in a little bit. Trying to find a music streamer for them to control the. I'm trying to find a music streamer for them to control the EQ. I don't know what that means. Is that a follow-up to previous? Here we go. Thoughts on topping. Okay, here we go. I'm trying to find a music streamer for them to control the EQ. I don't know if I follow you, but are you saying you're trying to get a streamer that you're going to feed into the D53 and then into the A53 so that you have a EQ? I mean, WiiM would fit that bill, even though it's a giant conspiracy to get access to our IP addresses. Barry Sullivan, good afternoon. Just changed a $28 carburetor on a log splitter that died. I've never done it before. It worked amazingly. I don't have a problem changing a carburetor. What I have a problem with is rebuilding a carburetor. Not to say that I can't do it, but I don't want to do it. I have changed carburetors on lawnmowers and stuff like that because, like an idiot, I let gas sit in there all year until it's lawn mowing season again and never starts. So I threw a new cheap carburetor on it. Fired right up. Keith Couch throwing me $10. Thank you so much. Y'all buy some coffee. It's real good. Then you don't have to super chat me. You can buy coffee, support the channel, get something out of it. Yes, I want a music streamer for my A53, D53. So WiiM is the best option. It's the cheapest option. I wouldn't say it's the best option. It's the cheapest option that is very good and has a good DAC in it. I mean, you can go crazy though. You could go to, what is it, Eversolo DMP A6, I believe. I think they may have a new, this has a little like one-way valve on it. And so when I squeezed it, see that right there? When I squeezed it and threw it, it spit out coffee aroma wonderment. It's so good. Ooh, I actually need to ship some coffee today. I'm glad I did that. Yes. Okay. Building an acoustic suspension speaker set. I've always preferred the sound, but am I missing something not using ports? Okay. So a sealed speaker, they all sound different, right? They can sound different. Ported speakers all sound different too. There's terrible ported speakers. There's mid-range focus ported speakers. There's bass heavy ported speakers. There's top end heavy ported speakers, and the same with acoustic suspension. So it really depends on how you're handling the crossover. Yeah, woofer size, things like that too. So it depends on, okay, so it also depends on enclosure size. So if you have a giant enclosure, then it's not really going to matter that much. If anything, the bass rolls off way more smoothly on a sealed speaker or acoustic suspension speaker versus a ported speaker, because you have to tune the port. And depending upon what tuning frequency is, then you generally have a fairly significant fall off as far as the slope of the fall off on the bass. With that said, though, it's all different. And so if you're designing the crossover, you can kind of design around it, but you're going to have to increase the enclosure size if you want to get the same amount of bass punch. If you like smooth bass roll off, then none of that matters. So yeah. Old guy hi-fi, $10. Ed, what are you giving me money for? You don't need to give me any money. Good afternoon to you, my friend. Hello, Otis Scopsy. All right. Here we go. John Shepler. Classic cars are so much fun. Everyone needs more than 1 or 5. John, I totally screwed up the timing. I'll have to tell you later. Anyway, I finally got it figured out. So, but this was after having to buy another components because of some other stuff. So far, out of my own stupidity, I've had to buy 2 different things for that engine. One, because of cross-threading and stripping out threads, and then another because of stupidity. It may have not been complete stupidity on my fault, because I think there was a bad starter relay, and I had some really bad, shady, corroded wires and grounds too. So, but anyway, I think my over advanced timing had something to do with it too. Anyway, we'll have to talk later. Help. Tyler, it's okay. We're going to get through this. Question for anyone. Inherited R282 turntable and RP600M2. First timer. And need guidance on a budget-friendly amp. Only have $400 to get this up and running. Vinyl, TV, and streaming use. Okay. WiiM Pro. Although I don't think the RT82 has a phono preamp in it. So you're going to have to get something with a phono preamp in it. If you only have $300 or $400, you can look at the Yamaha AS301. Used to come in at $350. I don't know what it sells for now. It has a phono preamp in it. That amp doesn't sound great. It sounds okay, but you get a ton for the money for under $400. Then you can look at, go see if you can find a TA100 or a TA1 or TA2 from Emotiva. That's an integrated amplifier. Whatever the newest one comes in at $550 or something. So if you can find one used, it's probably $400 or less. There is a Sony product out there that's not very good, but it's in your budget. And then there's an Onkyo 2-channel product that's not very good, but it's in your budget. I would try to find a used Emotiva. I'm trying to think of what else would be in that price range that's going to have a phono preamp on it. Does the WiiM Pro? Hold on one moment. No, it doesn't have a phono preamp on it. What else? I'm trying to think what else would have a phono preamp in it that's decent. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff that has a phono preamp. Oh, here you go. Okay. You could get, there's a Fozzy Audio phono preamp for about $60. It's not great, but it's also not terrible at all. It's got 2 stupid tubes in the top of it, but that's okay. People like tubes. That's $60. Then you could get something like the, oh, now we're talking. Okay. We're going to get you all set up here. All right. So what you do, you buy the WiiM Amp Pro. Okay. That's $350 or $330. Anyway, you buy this, then you buy that Fozzy Audio phono preamp, and then you hook the Fozzy Audio phono preamp into, my goodness, this is heavier than it looks. Whew. I'll have to tell you something about what they did to us in boot camp. Anyway, then you'd hook the phono preamp right into here. Boop, boop, boop. Now you have streaming, you have room correction, you have a 10-band EQ, you have a parametric EQ, you have a remote control, you have HDMI input, you have a USB output if you want it, you have a subwoofer output, and you have a phono preamp, speakers that are fairly efficient, so you can drive the heck out of them, and you can also use the EQ to bring down the harsh 2000 hertz bump in clip speakers for $400. You get everything. There you go. That would be my recommendation. Yes. Your recommendation for an inexpensive DAC in 2025, SMSL SU1, $80. I don't know what Fozzie's making some good DACs. The ZD3 is maybe 150. It's pretty good. Pretty good DAC. Use a WiiM Ultra for a DAC if you wanted to. Yeah. Any thoughts on electrostatic speakers? Are they worth it? It depends. I would say yes, they are, if they can make some bass, or you have like a crossover, and then you maybe get like a subwoofer with them. They're outstanding. They also take a little bit of room, so you're gonna have to pull them away. So if you have the room, you can put a low pass on them. Unless, I mean, there's some giant ones I think that make decent bass. So it depends on what type of music that you like. It depends on how much bass they can handle. It depends on how much room you have. It depends on what your budget is. And then it depends upon, well, the speaker itself. Because I think Magnepans sound different than other electrostatic speakers. How do you feel about Fluance speakers? They're not the best. I did some backflips over them when I first started the channel. I think they were $99. But I've listened to a lot of Fluance speakers at this point, and none of them are very good. They stick to turntables, the Fluance. Question is about oh man, I wish you would just pack both questions together, because I don't always see the first one. I'll try to find you, and then we're gonna have to jump off. Buy some coffee, everybody, if you want some. Steve Gray hated every minute of it. What's that? Back in the 70s, and I rebuilt. Oh, on a Datsun 1600. Nice. Oh man, was that the one that had like the scooped out headlights, kind of like a 911? I love Datsuns. They were very cool. Still couldn't get rid of the flat spot in the acceleration curve. Yeah. Needed some vacuum advance or mechanical advance in your distributor for that. Anyway, I'm learning all about that stuff. Datsun was a sweet machine, though, back in the day. All right. Oh, so I had to tell you, when I said this was heavy, which it is, holding it out like this. So in the Navy, when you get into trouble, they would, they would make you do push-ups and stuff like that. And even if you didn't screw up, they would make you do push-ups and stuff. This is before the kindler, gentler military. Anyway, one of our drill instructors was like, you just need to hold your pen out. So anyway, we had to hold our pens out like this for, seemed like an eternity. Yep. All right, there's a question in here from somebody, and I was going to see if I could find their previous question. So just FYI, if you're asking a question and I haven't answered it, basically just copy and paste it again. I got WiiM Ultra a few weeks ago just for streaming. Already have a more intricate phono setup. It goes into my same system, though, which is set up for Atmos home theater. Very nice. I can't find what it was. Anyway, I hope our pen hazing was a lot worse. I have a Mica RB42 with Fozzy BT28 Pro looking for subwoofer. Please recommend. if you got $300, you can't beat the RSL something 10E. So yeah, otherwise just look for something on sale. I know was it Q Acoustics? No, it was what was it? Klipsch owns them. They're good looking. They're out of the they're out of Scandinavia. Yamo. Yamo used to make some ultra cheap subwoofers that in a pinch were all right for the price. All right, I gotta go. I hope you all have Speedwoofer. I hope you all have a great week. Videos coming out this week. 240 to 280 is what you're talking about with the headlights. 1600 was a compact car. Well, I think all of them were fairly compact, all things considered during that time. All right. Here we go. Hold on. 4 or 6 speakers into 2 output amp. Okay. No. No, it's not. You're either going to put them in series, or you're going to have a huge load on that amp, or you're going to put them in parallel and you're going to have a very small load on the amp. Either way, it's bad for the amp. Occasionally you can do that. You occasionally can get away with 4. I would not do 6. So yeah, do it at your own risk though. As I take no responsibility for you blowing up an amp. Anyway, have a great week. Love y'all. Thank you so much. Buy some coffee.